It's totally selfless. That's what spiritual love is. It's totally self. Krishna is the only concern. That's bhakti. Then we can see just how fallen we are. When we compare ourselves to what is the ideal, and then we don't have, there's no reason to be puffed up about anything. But that's bhakti. That's full love. Yeah.
So that also means that Krishna is completely selfless toward the devotees?
Yeah. So there's no loss. Krishna's completely selfless towards the devotees, yes. Krishna's love for others is the same as their love for him, their pure love for him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he heard that Vasudeva Datta Thakur was willing to take on the sufferings of all the living entities in the material world, and so they could go back to Godhead, the sinful reactions and the sufferings that come. And he said, let me go to hell for them, as long as everyone goes back to Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went into ecstasy of emotions. He said, Vasudeva, there is no one like Vasudeva. He can take my body, he can sell it anywhere. I am the property of Vasudeva. He said it over and over again. He purchased Lord Chaitanya with his bhakti. And he wasn't just speaking like that. He was sincerely saying, let me go to hell and suffer for everyone. Let them all go back to God. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so much overwhelmed by the love of Vasudeva that he couldn't stop glorifying Vasudeva. So, therefore, in the same way, Lord Chaitanya said he can do whatever he wants with me. I am Vasudeva's property. If you want to know my real identity, I'm the property of Vasudeva. That's who I am. In other words, he purchased the Lord by his bhakti. But he wasn't trying to. He was simply trying to, he was feeling for the sufferings of others. That's all. So these are the higher stages of bhakti. But that's what Krishna consciousness is about. The more we act in a selfless way, the more happy we could become in Krishna consciousness. And that's what it's about. Sometimes devotees actually try to do that in everything they do. But Krishna will give you opportunities. He'll put you in a test situation where it's choose between your own self-interest and higher self-interest. And then when you get these tests, you should consider it to be a great advantage. And you have to sacrifice for something higher. But believe me, there's no loss. Apparently it seems like we're giving up something. But one should not just do it as a feature of, well, I'm self-sacrifice. Sometimes people like to do that. They make self-sacrifices, and what happens? They get proud. It's not about becoming proud, it's about becoming what we call selfless and humble. That's bhakti. Bhakti's deep. It's like an unlimited ocean. We just somehow ride the surface, we get a little taste. But if you go out distributing books, that's selfless service. To go out in the streets, to meet the non-devotees, especially when the weather is not good, to sacrifice your own, we say, Krishna consciousness. In one sense, you put your Krishna consciousness on the line when you go out there. It's a risk. Definitely a risk. But Krishna rewards that risk. He's very much pleased. Any service you do is a desire to please the Lord. That is called bhakti. When we desire to please ourselves through the service, there's very little benefit from that. Very little. And the idea is to become absorbed in that mood. And then It's not a matter of thinking anymore, it's just a matter of serving. It's not a matter of thinking anymore, it's just a matter of serving. And we serve to please. As we try. We try to come up to that standard. False ego always comes in, and the mind always comes in to divert our attention away. But then again, we should be wary of that, and then go back to try to go back to a higher standard. But if you want to come to that stage of selfless service, it's easy. The easy process is to get the higher taste. And the higher taste comes by hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So you don't really have to make an arduous, let me say, painful sacrifice. All you have to do is come to a higher state of consciousness, and that is to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Once we get absorbed in that activity, then everything we do is pleasurable. It's not a matter of sacrifice anymore. And then the book distributors look forward to going out. It's not a matter of like, what's a sacrifice anymore. It actually becomes exciting. You actually enjoy what you previously did as a sacrifice. Because you actually absorbed the right mood. So when we hear and chant the glories of the Lord regularly through kirtan, we hear about the glories through the pastimes like that, then we become attracted. And we develop Krishna consciousness. Then everything is sweet. Then whatever your service you're doing is sweet. Then whatever your service you're doing is pleasurable. Whether you're washing the floor, or taking out the garbage, or managing the temple, it all becomes sweet because it's all for Krishna. It's all for Krishna's devotees. If we forget why we're doing what we're doing, then that becomes a problem. If we should always be conscious why we're making sacrifices, why we're doing what we're doing. Because that consciousness inspires us to continue. Because there will be times where things are difficult, but when we understand that the goal is to please Krishna, then one becomes satisfied with that. Whatever it is, cooking, cleaning, preaching, anything. It's a mood of devotion. It's for Krishna, it's for Krishna's devotees.
Hi, Krishna. I have one question about book distribution. Whenever we're on book distribution, sometimes it's difficult to actually, you have to really focus on what you're doing. You have to, be really one-pointed. Otherwise, you can't stop and run the devotee, when they're busy and everything like that. So, my question is, I'm trying to think. I'm even just trying to think that they're a soul, not just a body. And I can't remember Krishna. I can't remember what he looks like. Any of his forms. I don't know who. I don't know whether to think about big Krishna when he's on Kurukshetra or
just think about how to give the conditioned souls the book.
Okay.
It's one girl. Right at the beginning of the movie, practically. Not the beginning of the movie, but in the beginning of when book distribution was going on. She said, Prabhupada, it says that we have to think of Krishna time of death. But what happens when we're out on book distribution and we might die out there? Prabhupada said, if you're distributing you're distributing my books out there, then at the time of death, Lord Chaitanya will force himself in your consciousness. In the pleasure that you're giving the Lord by making this sacrifice, you think he's going to forget you, even if you forget him? Krishna's not ungrateful. He's not like someone, it's like, if you do it like this, then you get this. It's like very, what's the word? Rigid, yeah, rigid. And like, rules and regulations, it's like when you do business, everything has to be just like